Hello and welcome to Shadow Patch Notes, the series where we take the latest patch and discuss all the hidden tweaks and changes that didn't quite make the spotlight. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe, and stick around until the end of the video to see how you can win a Nomad game package with LTI and the Coramor paint. Alright, let's jump right in. We'll kick things off with some interesting ship changes. The F-7C Super Hornet had its hull HP decreased from 4,000 to 3,500. The Buccaneer also received the same reduction in HP, although it's important to note that the Buck received a huge acceleration buff in Master Modes to fit its Interceptor role. The Apoa Nox Hoverbike had its thrust capacities increased, while the Drake Dragonfly and Consolidated Outlands Hoverquad had their thrust decreased. These changes were likely made in the wake of the new Gravlev racetracks, which we'll get into in just a minute. Rounding out ship changes, the P-52 Merlin received a massive hit to its hull HP, going down from 1,870 HP down to 1,000. This gives the Archimedes another edge over the former. And one final note here, the Asperia Blade was given an external cargo storage outside of the cockpit, bringing it in line with many other fighters in the PU. As I mentioned earlier, an all-new Gravlev Racetrack game mode was added to the Arena Commander playlist. This mode comes with 5 tracks: Cleo Islands, the Snake Pit Reversed, River's Edge, and Shifting Sands. These tracks are all beautifully designed, and the Cleo Island track in particular is a blast to play, mainly because it's on water so you don't bounce 100 feet in the air when you hit a bump. However, I think River's Edge might be my favorite. It's an amphibious track with both water and land, and it has some really nice jumps, turns, and verticality. Lastly, I will say be ready for some action if you get onto the Shifting Sands track. Weapons are enabled here, and shooting another player will slow them down, allowing you to catch up. And the grand finale on this track is interesting, to say the least. The Master Modes test on Arena Commander took another big leap forward by introducing a few new ships to the roster, including larger multi-crew vessels like the Hammerhead and the Constellation. Much like I had hoped, a multi-crew ship with its gunners is finally a true force to be reckoned with against light fighters. Even more seasoned pilots will have trouble taking down these big ships solo. And this will set the stage for large-scale fleet battles in the future. I know there's a lot of controversy around the implementations of Master Modes, but I'll just go on record as saying I think the changes are great so far. I really didn't like playing Battle Royale before, but I've actually put a good amount of time into the new Master Mode's Free Flight, which I highly recommend you try for yourself if you haven't already. The combat feels a lot better for the majority of players, much to the chagrin of the Sweat Lords. For all my FPS junkies out there, the guns that cycle through Gunrush have been changed for the better. They finally got rid of the god-awful railgun, for example. A Kill Confirm mode was also added in the previous patch. Now back in January, we did get an update in the form of the 3.22.0a hotfix, which brought 2 main changes with it. First, we got our hands on the new Greycat salvage rifle. It functions just like the multi-tool variant, but at a larger scale. I also can't help but feel like the design is strangely familiar. With the introduction of this tool, we also received our first taste of ship component repair. Any ship component that has received damage can be repaired back up to 90% health using RMC from the multi-tool or dedicated salvage rifle. Just ask Burks.
Give me the juice.
You're distorting me. But you did just repair one of my shields.
What the fuck?
And now it's coming back up. This is the coolest thing that I've seen from this so far.
I thought this was pretty awesome, and although this is admittedly a bit pointless at the time, it gives me hope for the future of engineering gameplay. Hopefully we get more DIY repair incentives in the future, such as a big increase to repair and claim prices at stations. And the biggest change with that hotfix was the much needed ERT nerf. The cargo manifests for these missions are mostly comprised of ore now, with drugs being a rare, low quantity drop. Meaning you may still get a decent payout if you're lucky, but it won't be nearly as crazy as the 10 million credit runs we saw before. If you are wondering which boxes are worth taking over others, this chart here lists the tiers of ore by sell price. Be sure to focus on tier 1 and tier 2 ores if you can. bunker turrets were also tweaked. They now fire much more rapidly and deal a lot more damage than before. They can also target you from a very far range if you are flying a bigger ship. The reason for this change probably came alongside the work done on the Siege of Orison event. Siege received a heap of general polish and bug fixes over the last month or so, although this event definitely still needs some work to reach its full potential. After playing it a few times in the last playthrough, I think the big thing for me is that the shuttle from the roof of the showroom building should go straight to the current platform, instead of forcing the player to take multiple shuttles in different locations just to catch up. Another interesting fix came for the Hull C. It appears the cargo for the Hull C has been fixed. We do still have docking issues, but the actual cargo should load onto the ship properly now. Let me know if you guys have gotten this to work. Now, I'd be remiss not to mention the tech preview. The replication layer test has been ongoing. Currently it takes about 5 minutes on average for a transition. The transition seems to be pretty smooth and keeps everybody right where they were. There are some issues though. Missions are abandoned, causing potential rep loss. Cargo and loose loot inside of ships do persist though. And most interestingly, the Armistice Zone takes quite a while to come back after the server spins up. So it could lead to a lot of issues, like this.
This is what's possible with this exploit that I consider very much an exploit. This is at Seraphim Station.
Yeah.
These are actual players testing replication layer being murdered by another player.
I believe this is actually just Pyro.
Yeah.
Distortion damage received a pretty big nerf this patch. Distortion damage has basically been changed to only affect the power plants and your dashboard. They also made it so that shields now have a 75% to 95% resistance against the damage, depending on where your power triangle is. I swear, since the day I started playing this game, no mechanic has been more volatile than distortion damage. One day they'll get this right. During the tech preview, 2 new missions were spotted in an early state. The first being a legal variation of the data heist missions, and the second was an incursion mission, where you fought 4 hammerheads. These random missions turned out to be a part of a new 5-part dynamic event, which CIG is calling Overdrive. The first 3 parts have you running a variation of the data heist missions, each with increasing difficulty. The first one will mark the terminals with the codes you need, but Phase 2 and Phase 3 will ramp up the difficulty by having you search for the screens yourself. You'll probably notice that the Xenothreat armor is back. I'm glad to see it too. This was a nice addition to the Xenothreat event, and it's nice to see it in other places as well. If you're on these missions and you forget a crypto key, you'll find one by looting the pockets of the civilian engineers, like this guy here. You can either find him already dead, or discreetly take care of it yourself. You will not receive a crime stat for this, by the way. The bunkers then lead into the ship combat missions, where you fight the Hammerhead. And if I were to venture a guess, I imagine this will end with some sort of Idris level battle, and maybe even a boarding action. CIG has been talking about the interior for a while, so we'll have to wait and see. Well, that was quick. These mad lads truly got on board the Idris and took it. We got shots of the interior, NPCs guarding it, and even all the rooms fully intact. Looks like this bad boy is ready to go for the launch of Squadron 42. Oh, and just look at that hangar. So with 3.22.1 now here, all eyes are on the beefy roadmap cards for the next major patch, 3.23. It's going to be a beefy patch, so there's a lot to look forward to, with things like freight elevators, cargo missions, distribution centers, master modes, new EVA, and the legendary star map update. And that'll do it for this episode of Shadow Patch Notes. Wasn't too beefy an episode, but hey, first one back of the year. And there's plenty more where this came from. Speaking of which, I went and did the thing. I made a Patreon. If you like what I do here and you want to show your support for the next video, I'll leave the link down in the description below. Let me know what you're looking forward to the most. And if you're interested in the Coramor Nomad giveaway, just be a subscriber here on YouTube and head on over to my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/the5star. where you can find the link to enter. Come on by and say hi. Alright everybody, I'll catch you on the flip flop. Peace out.